Hello everyone. Today I'm gonna do a book review of a book called Journey Home by Radhanath Swami, which is a very nice book. He is an American Swami, and essentially he was born in Chicago, in the suburbs of Chicago, um, and he um, essentially his friends told him to go to Europe, and so he accepted the invitation. He went to Europe, and the first place that they arrived, and by the way, his friends' names are Gary and Frank. And so they arrive in Luxembourg in Europe in a tent, and his friend Frank says that he got robbed. He doesn't have any money left. And so he leaves. He's like, I have the return tickets, let's go. But Gary and the author, right, decide to stay in Europe and continue their journey wherever God takes them. And so from Luxembourg, they go to England. They meet other people who make them go to different events, etc. And then from there, they go to London, and then they go across the ferry to France. They go to Italy, and then they arrive in Greece. And at an island in Greece, island of Crete, it's called. The author gets a calling to go to India, but his friend gets a calling to go to Israel, and so they part ways. By the way, the author was a big part of the counterculture, and so when he was for example, in London, and he was hearing that rock festival in the at the island of Wight, it's called, and Jimi Hendrix was playing, and that rock and roll didn't really catch his attention. He wanted something more spiritual, something that gives him meaning in life. And so turns out that in London, one of his friend Mark at a youth hostel later on in London tells him that Jimi Hendrix was dead by overdosing on sleeping pills. And so that's when he knows that superficiality layer of pleasure doesn't fit with him. He needs something deeper. And so then he goes through many places. He goes to Turkey. He almost so they pass the border to Turkey, which was closed and had a cholera at the time. At Turkey, they arrive in Istanbul first of all, where they almost get killed in a house or in a den where they stayed, but they managed to escape. Then they went to another city in Turkey, also not very very pleasant. It begins with a letter E. But from there, from Turkey, they go to Afghanistan. And so there, it's completely different experience. And so the author sees how people are living in such poverty, yet still manage to be happy in life and still smile. And the hospitality, they invited him to go to their houses. And so I think that was in the city of Herat in Afghanistan, where people are so poor, literally having to dig holes in the ground and covering themselves with what they're very, 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 very poor, and they were literally stoned on hashish, and yet the author had really had a culture shock in that place. Never saw these people who are different from him, right? Smoking hashish and all that, and very poor, living in poverty, and yet so happy and smiling and being very hospitable. And then in Afghanistan, he also learned various lessons. He learned patience through literally having a mongoose on his hair, right, which then invited other insects to come. So he learned to being patient. He learned the importance of spiritual bliss as well, and he also learned to never do drugs again, because he was in this den with other people in this dungeon where people are just overdosing on hashish. And so he then stayed, I'm not going to ever do that. So he learned a lot of lessons in Afghanistan. From that, he went to Pakistan through the Khyber Pass, very, very dangerous opening. Again, he escaped from an occurrence where he almost got sexually harassed. And so he escaped that too, went through Pakistan, and then from Pakistan I think it's called the city is called Lahore, where it was the Indian embassy in Pakistan where he got his visa. He got denied before moving to India at the border crossing. so they didn't let him through. But through a change in the security officer, through the custom guard, eventually he pleaded and he managed to get into India. And so he first of all went to New Delhi and then into the Himalayas, where he met a lot of teachers, and eventually from going from one to the other, he met his guru, which was Srila Prabhupada, which eventually was his guru. And he first met him in Bombay, and then in Vrindavan, and so he became committed, the author, to the practice of bhakti yoga after living around 6 months in Vrindavan. I think it's either 3 or 6 months. He lived there, and after that time, he noticed that this is where he wants to stay at. So clearly, he had a calling, because all the other places he just went back from one to the other. But in Vrindavan, he decided that that's where he's gonna stay, and he's not gonna go anywhere else. Throughout his journey, he's seen many things taking place. He's seen like Swami Rama, who can decrease his heart rate a lot. He's seen Raga yogis who was able to literally like levitate. He has seen Shavaka yogi, I believe, was able to do other things, and at the end awarded him a stick, which he used to fight like dogs, which almost killed them after being hidden by a house at a house later on, and escaping the next morning, etc., etc. There's actually a lot of occurrences. And there's a lot of interesting things, because essentially he bought a picture of Krishna initially, and then he became dedicated to this god later on. So there's a lot of coincidences in his book, but he ends up in Vrindavan after passing through a lot of places, right? Crossing the border to India and dedicating himself. So this book really shows that we want to the importance of selfless service and humility to everybody in the name of God, and being compassionate to other beings. That's what Bhakti Yoga is, and the union of the physical body, the mind, and the soul. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and the takeaway message from this is to be kind to others, serve others, and live with humility, compassion, and devotion. That's what Bhakti Yoga was about. And although his guru passed away in 1977, I believe, he still is very committed to this practice. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.